Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Football Sweet Chat Show. I'm your host, Leon, and with me today is Andrew. Richard couldn't make it, so hopefully Rich will be back for the next episode. But the topics we're going to be discussing today are the Champions League group stage review. It's come to the end of the Champions League group stage, so we thought we'd go through that and then look at the current matches and look at the teams that have gone through and the teams that haven't. The topic after that is, do big clubs care about the FA Cup? A topic I know Andrew is very interested in. And the last one will be Liverpool. What is next? So we'll start off with the group stage review. What do you think of this Champions League group so far, Richard? Andrew, sorry.
No, it's fine, no problem. I think it's been quite an interesting group stage this year. I think it's very unfortunate that I think we've lost Liverpool because obviously we want all our English teams in as far as they can go. I mean, I don't know if that's just me, but I do see our English teams go forward. I think one of the surprising one in terms of league form, again, as an Arsenal fan who's watched them, is Dortmund. I mean, they've obviously done quite well in that group to win it, especially with the league form they are. And I think think of some of the results as well, like Man City, the Bayern Munich match at home was absolutely amazing. That's one of the things that City fans are going to remember for years, as they should. I mean, it was the Aguero show, but I mean, he's such a great player that you can have stuff like that, can't you? Yeah,
he's an amazing player, and also you've got to look at. I think when everyone saw City's group, some people could say they underachieved. They didn't play as well as they could have, I believe. I didn't expect Roma to be a big threat to them, and City done what they needed to do. They got through, and that's all that matters in the end. But some of the performances were a little bit lackluster. Some like silly goals conceded, which against the wrong opponent, or say like if that's the last match in the group, that could have really hurt them.
I completely agree. I mean, they got 1 point out of the 2 games against CSK Moscow. I mean, if you think about that, really, City could have actually really done well in that group if they hadn't drawn away and won at home.
Definitely, and considering that in the CSK away match, City looked like they were cruising for a very long time. And I think you could put a point across that the penalty decision was a bit, of a dodgy decision, but that happens in football, especially nowadays. Such fast football, the referee have to make such a quick decision. And I'm one of the first people to sort of come down hard on refs, but it's decisions like that go against certain teams. But I didn't think we were ever thinking that they was going to topple Bayern Munich, but certainly Roma gave them a tough time, and even CSK Moscow sort of gave them a tough time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Roma have gone up in my estimations a lot by watching them in the Champions League, because obviously you hear a bit about them obviously within Serie A, so you kind of hear Juventus, Roma and stuff like that. But I mean, to actually watch them, I'm quite impressed actually. Obviously as an Arsenal fan, seeing Gervinho play like that, you kind of think, well, where was that for the 2 seasons at Arsenal? But I mean,
don't you think definitely? I totally agree, but don't you think Gervinho was sort of played out of position at Arsenal? Maybe this is why we're seeing a different Gervinho. We're definitely seeing a few ex-Premier League players sort of shine in the Champions League, and that's what we all watch it for. We watch it to see teams that we don't get to see week in, week out, do we?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, all of us, especially who have clubs involved, absolutely love the Champions League, as we always do. Just on Gervinho as well, all Arsenal fans do openly say the fact that it wasn't his fault. He was as bad as he was. It was Wenger playing him in the wrong position. So, I mean, like I say, going to clubs like that abroad and everything, it's a lifeline for these players. And things like the Champions League, we see them and we go, actually, you know what, fair enough to Gervinho, he is good again. Because, say, Eden Hazard called him one of the best players ever played with. You don't get that from Eden Hazard.
No, definitely. And considering the players he's played with,
exactly.
But also, right. So we'll go on to the next group. Not the next in chronological order, or however that's pronounced. But Borussia Dortmund, Arsenal, Anderlecht, and Galatasaray. I thought that was going to be a difficult group for Arsenal. Sometimes I feel like with Arsenal they play really good against the big teams, but some of the lower teams they don't play as good as.
Oh, yeah, it's exactly. It's the same thing on about the City, aren't we? We're all talking like, oh, if Arsenal had scored 6 clear goals, it would have been top. If they hadn't conceded 3 goals at home to Anderlecht, you know what I mean? We're talking of different things. That's the same thing with Arsenal. Again, it's something slipped up, and then it's like, oh, but if they scored 12 goals on the last day, and Dortmund conceded 75, then they should have been top. But it's like, yeah, but you shouldn't be going into last games of the thing trying to score more than 4 goals a match. It shouldn't be happening.
No, it really shouldn't be. And also, like, you look at Arsenal's team, they had, you could say that injuries hit them, but then I feel like they've got a big enough squad.
Injuries hit every club, though. It's not an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. But also, you look at Borussia Dortmund, they kind of, okay, they didn't clear the group, but they came top, and they've been terrible in their league.
Well, they actually calmed down at the end, didn't they, against Anderlecht? I've heard that's not like the best performance Dortmund have ever played. So, I mean, they actually calmed down at the end of it because they knew they were going to finish top.
Yeah, and you know, a couple of goals here or there for Arsenal, and Arsenal could have like taken over. You know, against Arsenal, they looked very poor. I went to that match and watched it. It was they were just awful. They were dreadful to watch, and that was their first team. You know, which was even worse. But yeah, I didn't think Anderlecht and Galatasaray put too much forward enough to win it. I mean, Galatasaray only got like 1 point. So, you know, yeah,
exactly. Well, it's the Turkish league and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really. Sometimes they can put in good performances, but they certainly haven't shown enough to warrant going through the group.
No, not at all.
So the next group we talk about is Barcelona, PSG, Ajax, and Apple. Another very tough group for Apple and Ajax. You know, I think that group was already like set up for wins for PSG and Barcelona, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think when I looked at that, I thought Barcelona must be really doing well in this group. I mean, look at the teams as well, and then you get your PSG as well, billionaire owners and stuff like that. I mean, each other, wasn't it? Really, I mean, all of us as fans thought, "Wow, Zlatan against Messi is going to be the match."
Oh, definitely.
And it was good watching them against each other. So, I mean, with groups like that, although those two groups do really well, you get the massive benefits in them to play each other. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Definitely, but also I think Barcelona can take a lot of pride from the group stages after Messi breaking yet another record.
Oh, you know, it's just a different level, isn't it?
It's a phenomenal player, and then you look at sort of the other Barcelona players, and they've got Suarez on the wing with Neymar now, and you know they're looking like a pretty unstoppable team at the moment.
That's what I mean. I mean, I didn't have completely foolish of me wrote them off a little bit. Like, I've not looked at Barcelona and said, I've thought, oh no, they'll not win the Champions League. But I like what you're saying. Is exactly what you're saying. Look at their team. And you think, wow.
I definitely had the same. Definitely, I definitely had the same opinion at the start of the season, though. Yeah. I didn't think that they would even come close. Especially after the way Madrid has spent. So, you know, bringing in Kroos and Rodriguez, I thought, you know, this is sort of it's either between them or Bayern Munich, to be fair. Yeah. But, you know, I think that's the beauty of the Champions League. We never know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The next group we'll talk about will be Chelsea. Well, we don't really need to talk about it. I think Chelsea pretty much walked it, you know.
Yeah. Well, fair play. You have to play what's in front of you, don't you? And you certainly did that away at Schalke. Oh,
definitely. But also, I think it was a big battle between Sporting and Schalke, you know.
Yeah.
I think if Sporting would have got a result against us and Maribor got a result, you know, it's a different group, you know. And also if Schalke get a result against us, which they almost did, you know, if it wasn't for Huntelaar maybe taking a few more shots, then they could have potentially, you know, gone ahead of us at one point. So, you know, that was it's interesting, you know. Certainly didn't expect it, but that's like I said, that's the beauty of it.
As somebody, sorry for interrupting. As somebody who's obviously been involved in that group, were Schalke the right team to come second? Do you think?
I think with their quality, yes, because I don't think Sporting brought anything to the table. Yeah. I don't think they brought enough to, as much as they didn't give us an easy match away, but you know, when you're in the group stages, you each have to like. You got to show something. You got to show something that's worth going through, especially against a team like Chelsea. Not trying to like be like, oh, we're better than them, but you know, when you're up against Chelsea, you've got to show them. And a couple of years ago, after we won the Champions League, we got knocked out. So it's not impossible to do. And you know, especially after next year, because I heard next year that they're going to be changing the rules so that it's the champions play the champions. So there's going to be a lot tougher groups.
Oh, right.
So, like, if we're the champions of the Premier League, we won't be able to play certain other champions. That's going to be very interesting. So, we could potentially end up playing Barcelona in the group. So
that would be good, wouldn't
it? It'd be interesting for the neutrals. I don't think it'd be interesting for the fans. But no, a Falcao-less Monaco walk through their group.
That was a shock, wasn't it? Yeah, I didn't expect that. I think another team that's completely shut me up again is Monaco. They've definitely... That was another one where I thought, probably finish third or Europa League and try and have a go at that. Yeah. But now they did really well, didn't they?
In your opinion, do you think... I know you've have some opinions on Falcao. Do you think he's regretting the move to United at the moment?
No. Have you seen his weekly wage? He doesn't care. And it's on 350 and he doesn't care where he is. He could be playing on Beckton Park every weekend and he wouldn't care.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And also, I think you got to look at that. He didn't have to go to United as well. I think he chose to. So
it is an interesting one though, because the night before he did do that tweet, didn't he, about Madrid or something? That's
what I remember. And not a lot of people. It seems to have like gone into the mix because nobody seems to remember that. But I remember it very clearly because I remember Twitter blew up and it was like Real Madrid are going to have the best team in history, and you know they've got Falcao. Because I remember there was even a long sort of like news article of the previous week saying that they pictured him in Madrid and everything, and that was interesting. That was a strange saga. But maybe it's because Real Madrid didn't want to pay the funds for Falcao. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, even though we are talking about Madrid, I mean, there's a lot of money a week. I mean, he's made like 3.2 million at Man United for 200 minutes of football as well, with his injury problem as well. What a lot of people seem to forget is he's missed a lot of football, hasn't he, through his injury? Yeah,
he missed a lot of last year for Monaco as well, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just, do you really want to spend that on a player who, okay, we all know Falcao's quality, but you know, is his quality worth what that? Because a lot of Man United fans seem to be putting forward, well, we haven't bought him yet, so we haven't wasted their money. Well, you've kind of wasted a lot of money on him so far.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know, nevertheless, the next group: Real Madrid, FC Basel, Liverpool, and Ludogorets. Do you think this was a bit of a shock group?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when I looked at it personally, I went, right, top two done. Madrid will probably win about 5 matches, Liverpool about 4, and then the rest, the fight for Europa League spot happens between the bottom two. But I mean, I never saw Liverpool getting one win out of that group, and it be at home to Ludogorets in a stoppage time penalty. I mean, what a shock that was.
No, definitely. But I think also Liverpool have really unimpressed this season. I mean, it's a topic we're going to discuss later, but they've been really poor, and I thought the Champions League, they would step it up a level. You know, even if they weren't playing great in the league, you know, we'd see something else in the Champions League. But they've really unimpressed, and I think it may be a big part of it down to Sturridge being injured, but you know, you buy other players. That's why you've got the money. You didn't have to bring in Mario Balotelli. I think maybe Welbeck might have been a better choice at the end of the day.
But someone made a good point about Liverpool the other day, is the fact that what Rodgers probably did is when he got that Suarez money, is he said, right, I want to be good in the Premier League and Champions League, so I'm going to put it obviously across the club. But the funny thing is, by doing that, he's now probably got himself out the Premier League and out the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. But like we'll discuss it in the topic later. But it's a very turbulent time at the moment for Rodgers, and I don't know if he's going to hold on to that.
Well, I mean, we all hope so. I mean, I personally don't like seeing managers sacked, especially with the season he had last season as well, what he's done for Liverpool.
Exactly, and I mean, you'll speak to a lot of Liverpool fans and they'll say that, I think that they're still really hurt that they didn't win it as you would be.
Yeah, definitely.
But the plan was Champions League football, and he got that, but you can never... I mean, Chelsea won the Champions League in the year after knocked out of the group, so... What can you can't expect certain things to happen. It's a group stage. That's why you have to try and win all your matches, and if you don't, then it comes back to bite you.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's the thing that must annoy you if you are a Liverpool fan, especially Champions League terms, is that Madrid is a write-off. If you play Madrid twice, you can lose both matches, no problem. But I mean, it is the Ludogorets away draw and stuff like that. I mean, the results, like, I'm so gutted for Liverpool because I personally love watching Liverpool in the Champions League. Anfield midweek against Madrid was an amazing sight to see, and I personally wish they had progressed. And I think it is a real shame on football, the fact that they haven't got through, and I think the fans must be really gutted themselves.
But also, do you think that Liverpool may have been overestimating it for themselves? Do you think they might have been setting themselves up for failure, going in thinking that they could walk the group? Because I feel like their fans predicted them to sort of walk the group before even playing.
Well, yeah, of course, but I think in all fairness, you could expect that a bit of excitement from Liverpool not being in the Champions League for the years they were, to finally be in it and get the draw they did as well, because, like I said, I mean, I thought they'd walk it, so imagine what their fans must have been like to see it and think, Ludogorets and Basel, like, we've hit the jackpot here, because, like I say, you get 2 games off against Madrid. So it's like them two. Like, if, for instance, if Chelsea got that draw, you'd think, "Oh, great! At least we're guaranteed to get through."
Yeah, potentially. But then I think you've also got to look at teams like Basel. They've beaten a lot of teams over the last few years. So there's no easy group. You've always got to
of course, yeah.
But no, I definitely understand what you're saying. The next group, Atletico Madrid, Juventus, Olympiacos, and Malmo. I think this was always a group that we knew we could always predict the score, but then it came down pretty close with Juventus and Olympiacos.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, Olympiacos kind of shocked us all a bit last year with the win over United, wasn't it, at Olympiacos?
Wasn't it a certain Joel Campbell?
Well, you wouldn't know, would you? He never plays, so no one knows where he is now. He finished the game for Costa Rica, and then he turned up at Galatasaray the other day. Never knew he still played.
No, that's true. It's true. And as an Arsenal fan, I can imagine it's a bit disappointing when you see your team not playing brilliant and you have quality like that on the sideline.
That's amazing. Another one like with Podolski as well. He comes on, proves to Wenger and says, "Look, I'm the best finisher at this club. Bet you some money that he's on the bench against Newcastle on Saturday." But anyway, we're not talking about Arsenal. We can do a whole show on that. I'm not going to get started with that. But Atletico Madrid, right? No, it was seriously. Olympiacos, yeah, they get the job done. That's what I seem to know. Obviously, they didn't get through. But they are a good team. If you watch them, they are really quite entertaining to watch. And Atletico Madrid, not the same side as last year, but still doing well. And
I think maybe Liverpool could have took a leaf out of their book when it comes to transfers. They lost potentially one of the best keepers in the world. Well, didn't lose him. They had to send him back from loan.
Yeah.
To us, Chelsea, for the people that don't know, I'm a Chelsea fan, and then lost Felipe Luis to Chelsea, and then lost one of the best strikers in La Liga to Chelsea, and they've bought well. They bought Mario Mandzukic to cover Diego Costa, and he's done that fine. They brought in Antonio Griezmann, and he's been excellent, but I think Liverpool could have done this. They could have, or focused on youth. If Liverpool don't do great and they can see them promoting youth, then that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that. But I mean, Atletico Madrid's striking force, like their scouting is absolutely amazing. I mean, look at the past. I think it's 5 strikers.
Yeah, they've had some of the best strikers in the world.
Aguero and all that. I mean, they're absolutely ridiculous.
Forlan, Falcao.
Of course, yeah, of course.
It's an endless list, isn't it? And considering they won the league last year, a lot of players have gone and they're still doing pretty well. And it's a league which we know that Real Madrid potentially are going to walk this league, but it's teams like Atletico that need to show up, and they've bought the right players to do that. And also the Champions League's a big thing. If you start going to the latter stages, it's fatigue with the players, and you have to buy the right squad players. And I think Liverpool did that. I think they bought the correct squad players, but I don't think they needed squad players. I think they needed the first team players.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Liverpool, it's transfer business, because like I said, I mean, I constantly find myself thinking about it. I think, well, they should have definitely put all the money back into a striker, but then you've got to say to yourself, what happens if his first day of training he gets injured, he's out for 8 months, and then that's it? And then it's like, well, you can look at what they've done, and they've got all these squad players, and it's not to work. But I think the actual model is exactly what you're saying. If this is what you are saying, it's the fact that they should have maybe done what Atletico Madrid are and get 3 really good first team players.
Oh, definitely.
Whereas it's not the one world class striker, and it's not the 7 squad players. It's the 3 who are going to be a good base for the team, who are then going to push you back forward. If that's what you were trying to say.
No, definitely. And especially losing such a player in Suarez. Mario Balotelli isn't covering Suarez, because Suarez wasn't just a striker. He used to chase players non-stop, and you're not going to get that with Balotelli. Balotelli's in it for Balotelli, as much as Liverpool fans might not want to hear it. Griezmann and Mandzukic, they're team players, and they would have been such a much better option. But I think every manager has to make his own decisions. It's easy for us to sit here and sort of talk about what we would have done when he almost won the league last year. So.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's always easy for us to sit here. Like me personally, I've never managed anything in my life, so it's very easy for me to come on and slag off Brendan Rodgers. Whereas if I was in his position, I would probably crumble. I wouldn't under the pressure. So, I mean, we've got to give these people the credit.
Yeah, and also it was good for the memories of them thinking they won the league when they didn't. But right, the next topic we're talking about is, do big clubs care about the FA Cup? A topic I know that Andrew's very interested in. Why don't you start us off with that?
Yeah, well, and the main reason why I want to talk about this topic is because there is a big thing of the big clubs not caring. Like, of course, we have the example where Man United a few years ago, Alex Ferguson said, "I don't want to be in the FA Cup. We've got to go into a tour." I think it was of Asia. I might have got that wrong, but I think it was around those lines. They went off and did something else and actually withdrew from the FA Cup. And I don't know what all the other big clubs in the Premier League personally think of the FA Cup. Me, as an Arsenal fan who was at a lot of the FA Cup rounds last year, there was, like, Arsenal, just speaking as an Arsenal fan, a lot of Arsenal fans have affiliation with the FA Cup. That is a big trophy at Arsenal. And that's why winning it this last season was such a big thing. I mean, there's so many memories. Like, there's a picture in my room of Charlie George when he won the FA Cup against Liverpool with the cup on his head. And it's all, it's such a... It is a massive trophy at Arsenal.
But I also think like a lot of Arsenal fans, you see them on Arsenal fan TV and stuff like that. It seems like they've totally forgot that the FA Cup was won recently. Because I could tell you, if Chelsea won the FA Cup and nothing else, I'd be over the moon. It's trophy. But all of them seem to just want to win the Premier League and nothing else, or the Premier League and the FA Cup, and that's a success, and the FA Cup's not. But that's a big trophy.
Well, yeah, because a bit of it is a bit of what you're talking there is for Arsenal fans is being what's the word? It's they're being treated too early in Wenger's time. They're normally like my age of around 20 to 24. Where they had so much success in so many years of a young fan's life. They're like, oh my God, right, okay, this is happening every season. And then as we saw, it stops. And then everyone's like, oh, right. And then it's like, oh, it's okay, we won the FA Cup. And then people are like, well, that's not enough. But for me personally, and all my friends I talk to, the FA Cup is a massive trophy. And I'm just wondering what you, as a Chelsea fan, someone who's had a lot of success in the last few years, what did you personally think of the FA Cup?
I mean, I loved it every time we won. Sorry about that, guys. Just technical difficulties. As a Chelsea fan, I always loved any trophy. Winning the Carling Cup was amazing for me because it's silverware and it's seeing your team lift a trophy. I don't particularly like friendly trophies. When Chelsea won the Barclays Asia Trophy, you know, it's nothing. You know, when you win the MLS All-Star game, it's nothing. But when you've seen a team competitively compete to win a trophy that a lot of other teams would love to win, you know, I don't understand why fans get so negative about it. You know, Mickey Mouse Cup, you know, it's nothing. We want to win the Champions League. Well, everyone wants to win the Champions League. But think about the Europa League's just become even more impressive. The fact that if you win it, you get put into the Champions League. So more teams are going to start taking that seriously. You know, if you win the Capital One Cup, you get into Europe. You know, it's a lot of things like that, and it's a lot of negativity, and I don't like it. I think any competitive trophy you win is a bonus to you.
Do you think semi-finals at Wembley have ruined the FA Cup a little bit?
Yes, 100%. Because whenever I went to watch it, it's brilliant going to see Wembley, you know, lovely stadium and all that, but you should only be able to visit Wembley on a final. You know, I would be happy to travel to, as much as it's a long journey, I'd be happy to travel to St James's Park to watch us in the semi-final, you know, because it's about that. But if you're going to Wembley, like, twice, you know, it's a bit like overkill, really. You know, you're watching your team at the same stadium. It's just like, well, you're meant to feel that big stadium vibe on the day of the final, and you're feeling it on the semi-final. It's like, okay, one more match and then we've got the glory. And you know, I don't personally think it's great.
The only thing from a completely selfish point of view, the only reason why I do appreciate the semi-finals, for me personally, last season I managed to watch I managed to go to the semi-final against Wigan. Yeah, like, because I'm not a season ticket holder, I had no chance of getting a ticket for the final. So just from a selfish perspective, it was nice to go and see Arsenal.
Oh no, definitely, it's great to watch.
Chance of getting to the final.
No, definitely, I can completely understand that. It's a wonderful stadium to go and watch a match at, but I definitely think it's. I wouldn't say it's completely ruined it, but I do think it's like brought down a level of like a sort of wow about the final, because you know you're going to the same place twice, and it surely isn't that special.
Yeah, I completely see what you're saying. It's that idea of like the final at Wembley is that special stadium. That's why, like, when we used to watch like the matches at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, you know, you'd go there for the final and that's it. But you know, Wembley need to make a lot of money, and you know, just because they need to make money, there's no reason for doing all this. You know, it's irritating, but then you see other events being held at Wembley, they will do anything to get money at the moment. Well, yeah, of course, if you spend that much on a football stadium in a place, but I think we all have our opinion on that. My personally is they should have never built Wembley. I think England is England, and England plays across the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't understand that as well. I don't see the point of having a 90,000 seater stadium and filling it with 40,000 every match. You know, you might as well like tour England and play in even, like, I'm not saying do it in a 9,000 seater stadium, but there's plenty of like 30,000 seater stadiums around the country that could fill it every match. It'd be a better atmosphere, and you know, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's like, say, if we look at Villa Park for a good example, is the fact that if they had, let's just say, not the actual stadium, but let's just say, right, England were playing Uruguay in a friendly or a qualifier, World Cup qualifier in Villa Park, like me and you in London could easily get up there to Birmingham just simply on the train, and also Richard in Manchester can easily get there.
Yeah, but that's
can easily get there.
Yeah, exactly.
On a weeknight as well.
Exactly, and even when it used to be at Old Trafford, like, people used to travel up there. So I don't think that's the issue. I just think it's the issue that the FA, like, the only thing they care about is money, and
of course.
And they don't care about like a kid in the Midlands or a kid up north never having a chance to see England, because England to them isn't a football team or a family thing. All it is money.
Oh yeah,
and it's a shame to see, but you know, that's the way I think things have become. But the topic about the FA Cup, I think a lot of big teams have sort of gone off it, but gone off it for the reasons that I don't understand why. Because a lot of them, the big teams like Chelsea and that, you know, it's another trophy. You know, that's contributing to the treble. That's contributing to a double. And even the Capital One Cup, it's, you know, they need to show a bit more passion for it.
Do you think owners have anything to say on, like, to managers and stuff like that, as regards to what's priority and what's not?
I think only 4 owners probably would, and that's the owners that are in the Champions League. But I don't particularly think they're thinking, okay, well, you can put out a weakened side, because that's why Chelsea have the side they do. You know, we have a perfectly good 11 that could challenge any team. So, you know, that's what they buy for. Liverpool, they have a very good backup side. United, they could, well, no, not United, they couldn't, because a lot of their team's injured, obviously. But Arsenal, you know, they've got a side that could obviously challenge the FA Cup. But I think a lot of players now maybe think they're too big for it. You know, maybe a lot of players think, well, why, I'm not going to be playing against these smaller teams when somebody else can.
Do you think the FA Cup then is a thing that English players get, but people abroad, people from different countries don't? If you see what I mean.
I probably think it's the other way around. I probably think foreign players. I think the foreign players probably just think it's a domestic tournament. But I think some of the English players, a lot of the English players seem quite up themselves. So, you know, they could be potentially the ones that are causing that trouble. But I don't know. It could be anything.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking on that subject, because I was kind of thinking, like, I wonder what someone like, for example, last season, I wonder what Jack Wilshere, how it felt for him, as obviously probably as a kid watching the FA Cup, to then win it, as opposed to Santi Cazorla, who's probably might not have watched that much, if you see what I mean, like, because maybe it's big clubs not caring that much because there isn't as much of the FA Cup is the magic of the FA Cup, if you see what I mean, by the influence of international players. Yeah,
I do totally understand that, but you've got to remember, like, people like Hazard probably grew up watching the French domestic league, and it's kind of the same thing, and he probably grew up watching that, and he's probably come over here and probably thought, yes, the same sort of thing, you know, the big domestic cup, every team sort of gets their chance, and some teams go, and some teams, like, sometimes there's the giant killers, sometimes the big teams walk it. But I don't think any player probably particularly comes in and thinks, I don't really want to play in that. But I think there may be certain English players that maybe feel like, you know, they play week in, week out Premier League, they play Champions League, you know, I don't want to play in the FA Cup. That could be someone else's, you know. We've seen some of that arrogantness from English players. So, you know, I'm not analysing that to just be the English players, but all I'm saying is that we've seen it in the press that certain English players have that attitude. You know,
definitely agree.
Yeah, that could be a thing, but what do you think about the FA Cup? Do you think that the big clubs care about it anymore?
Oh, sorry, Leon, what was that to me?
Oh, Do you still think they care about it?
Do I think they care? It's like I say, because obviously I'm not going to come on here and talk for other clubs and stuff like that. So I don't want the comments to be blowing up of everyone saying, Andrew, how can you talk for our team? I'm just going to talk about, for me as an Arsenal fan, the FA Cup is massive. January 3rd, or that weekend in January when you have the FA Cup third round. Like, look at the draw we've got this year. We've got Wimbledon playing Liverpool. I mean, that's got giant killing written all over it, hasn't it? You just got to hope for Man United could possibly be going to Accrington Stanley. I mean, think about that. Van Gaal in Accrington Stanley's ground.
Well, it's already happened to them this year anyway. So,
when was that?
MK Dons.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
so
you forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly, but. That, you know,
Accrington Stanley would be absolutely amazing if they managed to turn on United.
It would be amazing, and you know that's what it's about, you know. But
that's why we love it. That is why we've got to preserve this trophy, because sadly, like, we do need to appreciate. But look at what the Capital One Cup is now. It's so commercial, isn't it? It's the Capital One Cup.
It's basically whatever company wants to sponsor this cup.
That's what I mean. I mean, we need to make sure that, for me personally,
it should just be League Cup. You know, they shouldn't be selling stuff.
Exactly.
Like, it brings such stuff away from it. You know, it really doesn't give it what it should be, and it's irritating. Like we don't see the sort of like the beauty of it, and you know, we're looking at like potentially Bournemouth beating Liverpool. You know, Sheffield United beating Southampton. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but Derby beating Chelsea. You know, that's a match that's not happening any other time. You know, that's a match where two teams have got to go out that wouldn't play each other than a cup match. You know, this should be the FA Cup part Mark II. You know, it should be the exact same thing. But I think all the sponsorship and also managers choosing not to play their best teams in it just brings it down.
I think, what did you say about the English FA before in regards to it being called the Capital One Cup? It's money, isn't it? Sponsorship. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we'll go on to the final topic. Liverpool, what is next? Why don't you start us off with this one, Andrew?
I knew you'd throw me into the lions with this one. Liverpool, I'm just going to put it out there straight away for our Liverpool listeners. I respect Liverpool. It's been said numerous times on this show. They are a great side of English football. They're an amazing club. What their history is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But as for today, something's got to change, because, like I've said, just in this show alone, I want to see Liverpool in the Champions League as far as they can go, and to get one win in a group that has Ludogorets and Basel and Brugge. Even though Basel have played some good football and beat some good sides in the past few years, to only beat Ludogorets through a penalty in injury time it's just not Liverpool, is it? I mean,
no. And also, like, we always look at Liverpool as that sort of very good attacking team. You know, I don't think they were ever gonna interest anyone with their defending in the last few years, but you know, they always had that bit of force going forward, and this year they really have been poor, like all over the pitch. And this isn't just Champions League, this is Premier League as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, they drew 0-0 to Sunderland the other day. Think about when they played Arsenal at Anfield last season. Like, that was one of the worst. That wasn't Arsenal that bad. The defence was awful, but Liverpool's attack just went out and said, right, we're going to beat you today, and that's exactly what they did. They just bombed forward and scored as many goals as possible.
Yeah,
and it was fun to watch. Like, obviously not that much, but in different matches, like the Suarez v Norwich, watching how good they were attacking. But
also, I also think like people think, oh, they've lost a striker. You know, spend big money, get a striker in. It's not as simple as that, because Suarez wasn't just the striker. You know, he was chasing defender, he was chasing midfielders, he was tracking back. You know, he was basically the whole team. You know, and people were running off him. You know, if he couldn't do it, then he was passing to Sturridge, who was in there. You know, it wasn't. Suarez was a very big player, and he was the most important player in that team. But he had a lot of people helping him, and he was doing a big job. Now, when you take someone out of that, who's chasing down defenders? Who's starting to do this? Because Sturridge wasn't chasing down defenders last year. Raheem Sterling wasn't chasing down defenders. You know, and we saw how bad their defence was. You know, sometimes it was like, well, we'll score more goals than you. So we knew the problem that Liverpool had, and it was by a world-class centre-back. And, you know, they may have thought they'd done that with Lovren, because Lovren was pretty good the year before. But he's been pretty poor this year, and now they haven't even bought a decent striker. Balotelli isn't going to chase players. Sturridge isn't going to chase players, and especially Sturridge is injured. Now you've only got Balotelli to back you up, and then Barini. You know, Barini isn't, as much as people might not want, Liverpool fans might want to hear it, but I think they know this already. He's not a Premier League striker. You know,
Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, go ahead, mate.
I just wanted to ask you a question, what I heard the other day, and I thought was a really good question, is do you think the injury to Sturridge this season is just as bad as them actually losing Luis Suarez?
Interesting. I think maybe. Maybe because I think if they have Sturridge in that team, they're more guaranteed goals. And the issue they're having at the moment is they haven't got anyone up top. You know, they haven't got that player to finish. And, you know, they get a few goals in, they get a bit more momentum, different games. You know, they've got, if they're 1-0 up against Arsenal or Chelsea, for instance, and they have Sturridge on the pitch, they're going to attack more instead of sitting back. And yeah, it could be potential. I think Suarez going might have been a bit more, but this season I think losing Sturridge may have been just as important as Sturridge being injured.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your point there. I definitely agree with the answer. The fact that Sturridge, if you put him in that team, take either Lambert or Balotelli or somebody like that and put Sturridge in, I think it's actually more of a belief that's actually there. There is kind of that, not like, oh, this is the same as last season kind of thing, but it's kind of like, oh, right, we've got this striker now who, if for someone like Sterling, for example, he knows if I just give Sturridge the ball as in a good area, there's a chance he's going to score, and it's like kind of a mental thing, whereas obviously if you are Sterling and you see Balotelli and it's like, or Barini, and it's like, it's not the same when you're playing with Suarez and Sturridge.
Yeah, exactly. And also, from the way we saw Sturridge last season, you know, he was beating players on the ball. He was running past defences and stuff like that. Balotelli stands there, waits for the ball and takes a shot. And that's the reason Man City sold Balotelli, because people worked him out. And also, defenders know, kick him in the back of the leg, he'll make a reaction and we'll end up throwing an arm. It's quite similar to Diego Costa, and we'll get angry. And with someone like Balotelli, the referee's eyes are always on him, because they know that there'll be some time in the match where he'll set off, and then he might do something.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean,
and
exactly,
I think that's probably why Arsene Wenger didn't go for him, because there's no way that Liverpool got him and nobody else would have known he was available.
Oh yeah, exactly. I don't think Wenger would have touched him with a 10-foot barge ball.
Exactly. And also, I think when you look at Wenger's players, I think they have to have respect for him. And I don't think Balotelli's the sort of player to do that. And I think that's why a lot of managers have got rid of him. But I think a big respect's got to be given to Wenger for the Danny Welbeck thing, because he took a lot of criticism for that. And Welbeck hasn't been too bad, actually. Okay, he hasn't been the sort of 20-goal-a-season striker, but then everybody knew that Welbeck isn't a 20-season striker. It's the first time in his career he's been able to play as a striker in the Premier League. So, you know, you've got to give him time. But with Balotelli, he's done it. You know, he's played in Champions League. He's been a starter, and he still is just too lazy. And this could be his last chance at a big club.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, you and Richard have said it so many times. Yeah. Balotelli plays for Balotelli.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I think Brendan Rodgers, I think Suarez, say what you say about him, he was a team player, as you said. He played for everybody. He got the ball and chased back and everything like that, and he did all these things. And it's kind of exactly a lower level of what like Danny Welbeck is. Danny Welbeck runs back and tackles and stuff like that. So it is a player who, obviously not on the level nowhere near of Luis Suarez, but has the work rate that could be closer to it. And I think we can all agree that Balotelli was. I mean, we all kind of thought, really, Balotelli? Are you sure, Brendan Rodgers? That's going to be the striker who you're going to take into the season? Like Barini, personally, I think if he got more of a chance, fair enough, not 20 goals a season at all, but maybe like the odd 10, 15, you know what I mean, like in all competitions, like a few tap-ins and stuff like that.
But also, like, I know, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I personally don't think he's great, because I used to see him when he was a Chelsea youth player as well. But you know, he did okay at Swansea, but then he wasn't expected anything at Swansea. You know, it was turn up and you done well, then people might notice you. But with him at Liverpool, you know, I think Sunderland didn't want to pay the money, so that's obviously not going to put a good like thought in your head. Oh, Sunderland, they don't want to pay enough for me, so that's got to say something. But also, they bring in Lambert. So you're thinking, okay, why have they brought him in? They surely don't want me here. And then they brought in Balotelli, so he's quite down the pecking order. And I think the only time he will ever get played is if Sturridge is injured, Balotelli's injured, and they want to rest Lambert.
Do you not think, though, he has a bit of an ego on him, and he kind of thought, oh, it's only Lambert and Balotelli, I'll be the starter?
Potentially, but then you got to remember he's that there was a big transfer sort of negotiation between them and Sunderland. So, you know, he could still be thinking, oh, am I that bad? They didn't want me. So, you know, that's not good for a player's sort of morale.
Oh yeah, definitely see what you mean there.
I do understand what you're saying, though. It could potentially be that he thinks, oh no, I'm good enough to play against this lot, but then he hasn't played, you know. But then maybe the reason they're not doing well, maybe that will boost his ego, thinking I'm not playing, so maybe I'm a better player than this group, so I could do better than him. And you know, as you just said.
Well, yeah, there must be something in training or something that's obviously, because Brendan Rodgers, you'd think at this point where he is now, we'd kind of think, you know what, here you go, here's your opportunity. I need strikers to put the ball in the back of the net, regardless how you do it, just do it. Here's you go. But it doesn't seem to be doing that.
No, he doesn't at the moment. And also, you look at Southampton. You know, you could say that they robbed Liverpool, because the players that they've brought in are Lallana. I think has been terrible. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt at the moment because he was injured when he first came, but you know, he hasn't shown anything from what he was last season. And Lambert, I still don't understand why they bought Lambert. I know Liverpool was his home team, but he was a starter for Southampton. I still don't understand the logic behind it, but that's just me. I'm sure he did have valued reason to leave Southampton, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, how do you think this will last for Liverpool? Do you think that they will stay with Brendan Rodgers?
I hope so, but I mean, you've just got to think. I mean, don't forget, these are the same owners who got rid of Kenny Dalglish after he won the Capital One Cup and got into an FA Cup final. So I think with a team like Liverpool in the place where they are now, it's kind of the Tottenham thing where it's Champions League or you're getting sacked. And I hope that isn't the case, because I don't think they'll get Champions League football, but I think they do need to stick with Brendan Rodgers, because he does have a good philosophy. And obviously, like you say, you can't, even though they didn't win it last year, you can't forget what happened last year. I think where they were before that and how well he's done.
And also, it's not even the fact that they were at the top and they lost it. It's the fact that we saw how good they were playing that football, and you know, things happen. You know, no team walks the Premier League anymore. It's such a difficult league, and with teams like Liverpool, from what they were before, you know, they've done good. So I think we've all got to realise that give Rodgers time. If he's not improved by next season, what have they lost? Because they're not going to get any manager better than him at the moment. And also it's going to cost a lot to get rid of him, considering he signed that contract. So you know what are they expecting? Because he was only ever going to win it if Suarez stayed, and I think we all knew Suarez was gone after that Crystal Palace match.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think with Brendan Rodgers, I think kind of modern day has taught us that a manager doing bad, we must sack him. Like 20 years ago, that had never been the thought. Everyone would be like, "What? Brendan Rodgers getting sacked?" No, he finished second last season. He's got at least 2 seasons left. You know what I mean? He's got 1 year of just transition of do whatever you want, just get the team back in a few years. And I mean, I think some of the signings could end up working. I completely understand what you're saying about Lallana, but I think I can't say anything because I had a real go at Henderson, and I think he's come into quite a good player now, especially if you look at him last season. I think he has grown quite a lot, and I think I can see Lallana being the same, possibly as that thing of growing through the season. So I think for Liverpool fans, I think you need to stick to Brendan Rodgers. You probably won't finish second this season, but it's all about growth, and you need to just stay positive, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, I think what we were saying earlier, that certain fans were sort of certain Chelsea fans, certain Arsenal fans of sort of are used to success, so they expect it. But I think Liverpool fans of old expected it. You know, I think Chelsea fans from sort of, I'd say that around 15 or below expect it. Arsenal fans from about 20 below expect it. But United fans, some of them for their whole lives have never seen failure. So the minute David Moyes done bad, it was get him out of the door now. We want progress. But you've got to look at the bigger picture here.
Oh yeah, exactly. I just want to ask. Oh, go on then.
No, go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you a question. If you were in Liverpool's position, with what you mentioned before about Europa League, would you properly go for the Europa League now, or would you try and go for the league and finish fourth? Because like what you said before, if you now win the Europa League, you get in the Champions. But do you think Liverpool can do both though? Because I think that's what his problem was here. Is he tried to do both, and by trying to do both, he put 2 week aside on both, and ended up possibly losing both. Do you see what I mean? So I'm thinking. No,
totally. But I think they should try and go for both because it's only going to be either one. The way they're playing at the moment, it's going to be either one. So, but I think they should put all their power into both of them, because if they start playing well in the league, they will play well in Europe. These are professional footballers, and I say the same against every club. They should be able to play on a Thursday and then on a Sunday. They're professional footballers. Okay, and they've got a big enough squad to deal with them fitness problems. Okay, injuries come in, but that's every team. But if they start playing well in the league, then they will play well in Europe. That it's a given. And also, they're going into the Europa League. It's a different group of teams. They could be up against some easy opponents. Put your best team out and try and demolish teams. Get your morale up, and then hopefully it works out well in the league.
Well, yeah, exactly, because they're kind of coming into the business section, aren't they? Really, of the Europa League, kind of like, even though it's 32 teams, it's still the big team. So I think in Europe, like Liverpool love Europe. When you talk to a Liverpool fan, it is European Cup. So I mean, for me personally, I think you can look at the league, but you just got to think, like, who's better than Liverpool to get fourth? As probably you've got Chelsea, City, United, Arsenal, and then maybe they can finish, like, try and challenge Arsenal for fourth, you could say, in Man United. But I mean, like, with Europa League,
do you think Liverpool will get fourth?
Me personally, I think they might just miss out on it, just because I think it depends how long Sturridge is out. The sooner he comes back, the more chance they've got. But until then, I mean, and still, especially until the January transfer window, because they need that. They're one of the main clubs who need it. But then again, do they have the money to spend? Because I mean, Brendan Rodgers spent a lot of money in the summer. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, and also you've got to look at They said that they was in for Sanchez. Well, Sanchez was only available because Barcelona knew that they was going to go for Suarez.
I don't know why they didn't just do a swap in money. I still don't understand that.
I don't know either, but maybe it was down to the player choosing not wanting to go there.
Yeah, he did choose. He wanted to go to Arsenal for less money than to go to Liverpool.
Well, I heard that as well, and also, players can always be persuaded. We've seen that over the years, but it was one Sanchez would have been better than Lallana, and all of these other players. It's irritating because you see Liverpool, and they made some big comments as well about United as well, not being able to attract players because they're not in the Champions League and stuff like that. But it's irritating, and especially with players like Di Maria available, because what United spent on him, I don't think he would have gone to Liverpool. But at least try and make an effort. Because one of them players could make a big difference. And, you've let a world-class player go, bring a world-class player in. You didn't need these 5-6 players. But, that happened. Right, we'll call that the end of the episode, guys. But if you've agreed with the topics or disagreed, please leave a comment in the comment section. If you want to be involved in the show, leave a comment or follow us at the Football Suite, which Andrew runs. He'll be on there a lot, tweeting out. So get involved in the chat and tell us how we can improve the show. But thank you.
Thanks a lot for listening, guys.